As you all know, I often talk to founders and business leaders who spend months building incredible products. But it's easy to forget how that one overlooked login or unsecured Wi-Fi connection can bring everything crashing down. That's where Nord Layer comes in. It's a business security platform built for the modern hybrid team. No hardware, no complicated rollout, just a simple toggle-ready solution that lets you secure your entire network in minutes. And it does this by combining VPN, access control and threat protection so your people can connect safely from any device and any network and anywhere. So whether you're 5 people or 500, you can scale it within a few clicks and sleep better knowing that your data's protected by the same team behind NordVPN. So if you've been putting off network security because it feels too technical or too expensive, don't wait any longer. Please visit nordlayer.com/techtalksdaily and use the coupon code TechDaily-28 for 28% off your plan. But now, on with today's show. Today we're going beyond chatbots and copilots with the CEO and co-founder of a company called Zenphi, a no-code workflow platform that treats AI as infrastructure. Infrastructure quietly wiring intelligence into the way that work gets done. So if you've ever felt that your company's AI efforts are stuck in silos or just drowning in assistant tabs, this one's for you. We're going to have a lot of fun today, and I don't want to reveal any spoilers, so please buckle up and hold on tight because I'm going to beam your ears directly into today's conversation. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Hello, Neil. Thank you very much for having me on the show. My name is Vahid Taslimi. I'm the CEO, co-founder of Zenphi. For those of you who don't know what Zenphi is, we are a workflow automation platform, enabling companies of all sizes automate their processes. As per myself, a good chunk of my career has been in the workflow automation domain, last 10, 15 years of it, 15 years maybe. So yeah, I'm looking forward to today's conversation.
Yeah, you and me both, because every day on this podcast, I try and get different voices from all around the world on how they're seeing technology impact their world, their life, business, and everything in between. And you're talking to me today in Melbourne, Australia. And one of the things that put you on my radar is you've described AI as infrastructure rather than a user-facing tool. So tell me more about that and what it means in practice for enterprises.
Sure. Again, the description is in context of organizations. Yeah. So to answer your questions, I want to take a step back and talk about organizations. Like each company and organization is essentially a collection of processes. Like you got hiring, approval, loan applications, depending on what you do, your production is a process. And each process involves multiple people, systems, involves hands-off. The organizational process and productivity gains is very different than personal ones. They're individual ones. Also, the individual ones contribute to that. So at the personal level, AI can be great. Copilot, of course, it can help draft an email faster, summarize meetings, and do many other things that we use ChatGPTs or Geminis to do. But at the company level, the real productivity, I believe, it comes when AI is embedded across these processes which run the company. Basically, these processes are invisible. I mean, you should know of them if you're in a company, but these are invisible, behind the scenes running. In short, like I'm talking about the processes you put in place to make sure invoices are approved, that the loan applications are reviewed and approved in a compliant way. And your staff are offboarded properly. That's where AI moves from being a handy assistant just to an infrastructure, like behind the scene, running the company. So, and that's where AI's infrastructure, I see, boosts organizational efficiency in a compounding way, which would result in real business impact.
And I think there will be many people listening all around the world, and their organizations will be currently experimenting with chatbots or copilots, etc. But again, one of the things that stood out for me about what you're doing here is at Zenphi, you're focusing on embedding AI into workflow. So why do you think this approach delivers more lasting value? Because I think it's such a timely message when so many business leaders are trying to unlock value, and you seem to have found something here.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I talked about in the previous question, I talked about the difference between personal productivity and organizational productivity. Like chatbots absolutely add personal productivity. And I understand, in business, you've got people, so you do need them. These chatbots help employees do whatever it is they're doing, faster, maybe in a more efficient way. That's valuable, but it's limited. The reason I see the real gain is when you embed AI in organizational process is because imagine a process runs thousands times a day. You get RFP coming in through your inbox, thousands of them a day. You get invoices coming in, or you got people applying for credit cards. If you can delegate just part of this process to AI, use AI to improve productivity and gain like 5-10 minutes for each run, and reduce the error rate, because when you have human, there's that human factor in there as well, which could increase your error rate. But if you use AI to save 5-10 minutes for each time this process executes and reduce the error rate, the compounding impact is enormous compared to employees just using chatbots. If you just you'd be constrained with what that employee is doing, because that's just one part of the process. Again, I want to emphasize something. I do believe chatbots have their own places, in the organization. Not saying organizations should not use them, but I personally believe we should enable people to use AI right inside the tools they already live in. In the context of chatbots would be your Slacks, your Teams, your Google Chat, rather than, having a chatbot for this process, having this thing I want to do, having another one for the other one. And I'm having 10 different chatbots on my desktop. At the end of the day, again, going back to the point, I do believe the real transformation comes when AI is working behind the scene in the workflows and scaling those workflows across the businesses.
And a topic we've been talking around a lot recently is shadow IT, and in particularly shadow AI. And one of the things that again stood out for me was that I think it was Gordon Food Service, and they're using Zenphi for access reviews and shadow IT monitoring. So tell me more about that, and maybe what IT leaders listening might be able to learn from a use case like this.
Sure. I mean, amongst many other things, these are some of the use cases they're using it. I mean, Gordon Food Services, that's like it's an enterprise. They've got 20,000 or more employees. They work in a traditional domain, it's a food industry, but I have to say the IT is quite progressive. I really enjoy talking to their IT team, especially in terms of AI. Look, the main takeaway, I start from the end. But the main takeaway for me with talking to them is that they start small, they prove value, and they scale. That's what I've seen they do across everything they do, which is really fascinating to see, because there's a lot of learning in there. And in terms of the shadow IT, this process has been there for a long time, right? They've had this process for a while. So again, for people may not know, is when someone in your organization is trying to connect their organizational account to a SaaS application, which is not part of the approved list of applications. Say someone is trying to connect to Microsoft Teams, right? And then it's not part of the approved list of applications. So what happens? They would stop it traditionally. Now that person needs to reach out to IT, explain why I want to do it, and IT needs to go back and say, don't use Teams, use Zoom or use Google Chat. These are standard ones. Now, what they have done, they've removed that step. They've delegated to AI altogether. When you try to connect to Microsoft Teams, obviously it gets stopped, but then there's AI who's got a knowledge of all the approved application and knows, the closest thing to the Microsoft Teams is Zoom, which is approved, writes an email and says, hey, Neil, we noticed you wanted to use Microsoft Teams. Go ahead, but it's not approved. This is the alternative used in the company. That's a part of our standard application. Go ahead and use this one. If you have got a real business case for it, just then only then reach out. So that itself, when you're talking about a company of, 20,000, 30,000 employees, saves quite a bit of time for a small thing, but saves quite a bit of time for IT and removes the frustration from employees, because previously it was like, yeah, I can't connect to this one. Now, what do I do? Why is IT stopping everything? Because they wouldn't know. Now that because they get immediate feedback, it helps a lot on both sides. And they do the same thing across. They use AI. They're rolling it out really in a controlled, governed fashion across their organization. And the learning I've got there is start small, prove value, and scale.
And to further bring to life the kind of value that we're talking about here that businesses can unlock, can you tell me a little bit more about your work with Tavesio and how AI is enabling them to reshape their operations and ultimately expand their business? Again, another great story, isn't it?
Absolutely. This is my favorite one because all those conversations that you hear is for big organizations, which got a ton of resources to put into technology. Whereas this company, it's actually a small company, but high volume small company. They do procurement for campsites in the US, the US based company, right? Their work is being very seasonal. They've got the season starts from May. They've got a ton of work all the way to the end of August. So they procure a lot of invoices, receipts, and all those things, as you can imagine. I mean, few thousands of them a day for a small company. So they had to hire quite a few seasonal workers, 8 to 10. And they always would have a backlog of work, even though they finish in August. Because humans are doing it, the backlog of work would be up until December, January, February. Now, because look, we had no idea what they do. The only thing is that for a company like Zenphi, put AI in their hand, enable them to experiment with it. Because they were master of their own company, they know what's happening. They started applying it to one part. When they got comfortable with it, they rolled AI to multiple parts, pretty much every part of their organization. Now, they put AI in charge of classifying the documents which are coming in, extracting the information rather than the seasonal workers doing that, extracting the information, cross-checking information with different documents, related documents. And as part of their workflow, and they go and update other systems. Now, what it had enabled, this is my favorite part, because their work now finished at the end of August and they don't have any backlog, AI is doing it, they would have another 4 or 5 months of extra time on their hand, which had enabled them to expand their business, do a big rebranding, which the owner said they always wanted to do. And yeah, I mean, they expanded to the other businesses. So again, for these guys as well, trying out AI and see how it works for your organization is the best way to do it, and finding the tools which enables you to iterate fast on what you're trying with the low barriers of entry. My favorite story.
Love it. What a great story. And of course, outside of the traditional industries, we do have a lot of regulated industries that have tighter controls, like healthcare and logistics. They're often cautious about adopting AI for a myriad of reasons. So how do you at Zenphi ensure compliance while still enabling innovation? Notoriously difficult balance, but what's your approach here?
It's not easy, I have to say, right?
Yeah.
It's not easy at all. But one of the biggest lessons I've learned from my time in workflow automation, and this goes to pre-cloud time, let alone pre-AI, so from on-premise all the way to now, is that especially for a company like Zenphi, a workflow automation company, businesses rely on your platform. The operation is not just another tool they use. The operation relies on your platform. And for that, security and reliability is non-negotiable, right? So if it comes to making a decision, should we delay something or should we even if it adds a bit more friction in user experience, may not be an easy thing to say for me as well. But the truth is that sometimes you have to do the trade-off between the two. And we always go in favor of security and reliability to remain compliant. Now, in Zenphi, in terms of operation, obviously, we've got all those certifications, which and based on our rigid processes in our operation that ensures, the security of whatever we do in terms of the operation wise in the company. On the technical side, in terms of AI, we've made a decision. We've made sure we never, ever log or store anything for any AI model that we manage and we use. Our customer can bring their own AI model, and we provide guidelines how to use them. But if we provide AI model, we don't log or store anything. What it means is every interaction that Zenphi has got with your process got with Zenphi AI is one shot. So next time you would remember what you said or what you interacted, what kind of data you gave it to it last time. Whereas multi-shot interaction, because it would require us storing the data, and we decided not to do it. However, we not putting a full stop and say you cannot have multi-shot interaction with our AI. We enable you to make an explicit decision. You as a user get the data and pass it to the next conversation or next interaction you've got with the AI model, to the third one, to the fourth one. Sure, it adds 1 or 2 or 3 extra steps. We do want to make sure you making it explicit the decision, and obviously because we don't store data, we cannot anyway do it. But we also want to make sure that you as a user are also aware of the implication, even if you're using your own AI models. You bring your own AI models. In short, if I want to say, there's a small trade-offs that may need to happen, but rather than a trade-off, let's say it's a guardrails we put across the infrastructure from the ground up to enable both of them. So you can use AI and remain compliant. You may have to take 2-3 extra steps, but you still can innovate and remain compliant.
And we will have business leaders listening in 160 different countries today. And despite the many differences, and indeed differences in different industries and organizations, I think the one thing that the majority of companies have in common is that they run AI in silos. That data is locked in silos. So what steps should they be taking to move toward a more integrated workflow first strategy? Any advice there?
Sure. I mean, it's like a deja vu when SaaS came in initially, each department started running their own SaaS, and that's hence the shadow IT we were just talking about. It came to be. So my advice is that we should learn from you should bank on our learnings from the past. AI is another technology, and which is coming in. Sure, it's a lot faster, it's a lot more powerful, but it's similar to when SaaS came in. Right now, I see similar things. Most of the companies, you got pockets of the companies doing different things, using different tools. It may not necessarily be bad thing if it's in a controlled way, but my recommendation is, again, go back and most of us have been through the SaaS adoption time. We don't want to end up in similar situation where we became Wild West, and there was a lot of data security issues, and with AI could be a lot more damaging. Just start zooming out. Start by zooming out and understand why a certain department is using certain tools. It's normally part of the bigger process, cross-functional process across departments. And see if you can replace that with a standardized AI model, AI tool, whatever it is using across your company, and make sure whatever you're using, you've got governance built in, that should be non-negotiable, because again, SaaS, it was damaging, but AI, the damages could be a lot more if it's not governed properly. So that governance from the ground up, I believe every company should make it non-negotiable, even for the chatbots. Even if you're using whatever it is, decide you're using, whether it's whichever, or ChatGPT or any of the maybe newer application coming out, just gonna have to make sure there's a governance overall. That's the first step. Overall, zoom out and see if we can standardize the pockets as part of the bigger picture.
No code is central to Zenphi's platform. So how does making automation accessible to non-developers, how does that change the way that AI is adopted inside organizations? Because I think very often we get bogged down by the shiny distraction of technology, but it's the culture within an organization and how it's adopted that is so important. So tell me more about that and how you're making automation accessible to non-developers.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when we started Zenphi, one of the mission we wrote down was we want to enable companies of all sizes to operate more efficiently through the use of technology. Right now, based on our experience, we've seen the people the people who run the processes day to day, who own the processes. These are your HR manager, finance manager, the procurement team, and all those things. These are the master of the processes. They know what's happening in there. The challenge, which has been there since forever, is that to get this automated or digitize these processes, they need to talk to a technical person, right? And they need to explain their situation to the technical person. And a lot of things get lost in translation and takes time and all those things. Now, if you put the tools in the hands of these people and lower the barriers of entry with no code, now they would be the best people to see how AI can improve part of it, right? Now, what I'm trying to say is that rather than the technical people learning the process, the operation inside out, which is not an easy thing to do, it takes a lot of time. So what we've done, we flipped it and say, hey, non-technical people, you know your operation, but here's what AI is capable of. Now, how can you adopt it to your process? And then normally they wouldn't know it on the get-go, but when they start trying out, they see it's quick to try out, quick to make change. You see magic happens. Now, in our case, what we have seen is that, it was last July, not this July, the July last year, I was really excited to see the report that they gave me that amongst all our customers, top 3 processes were using AI one way or another, amongst all of our customers, top 3 most used processes amongst all of our customers. Now, today, I see the report from last month, top 20, they all use AI. And the interesting thing is that most of them are not managed by IT. They're managed by your people managing your healthcare clinic for intake, inbound, patient intake and other stuff. Most of them, or the video we talk about, most of them they're not managed by IT. And that's where we see actual growth is happening. While IT is growing, but these other companies, these other non-technical people, given the right tool, lowering barrier of entries, they're doing some magic there.
Exciting times. And we've been very forward looking here and where you're heading and how you're helping businesses. But if I was to ask you to look back now and draw on your experience at Nintech in the Microsoft ecosystem and now Zenphi in the Google ecosystem, what advice would you give to any CIOs or CTOs that could be listening who maybe want to move from AI experiments and pilot phases to operational AI at scale? Any advice there?
Obviously, companies of different sizes, they've got different situation, but the constant thing I see here is that I can say, honestly, I think 99% of the companies right now, they don't need to aim for a moonshot. You just need to aim for compounding wins. You start with one process or even part of one process, depending on what you're doing, right? Embed AI there, prove ROI, measure, then repeat and expand or retract. Sometimes you put it in there and you see maybe it's not the best time. You're not getting the best results, counterproductive. Let's move it and remove it from here and put it somewhere else. So you start small, iterate fast. And the other thing which already maybe mentioned it is that put the learnings from the previous technological shift into practice. Make sure governance is built in to everything you're trying to adopt or everything you're trying to plan. Governance gonna have to be there. Extremely important. Just want to repeat this because the SaaS, if lack of governance caused some damages for some companies, but here the damages if caused is gonna be the magnitude is a lot more. It's gonna be a lot bigger than the SaaS era.
Fantastic advice. And finally, there is a real pressure on each and every one of us to be in an almost state of continuous learning now to keep up with the speed of technological change. So where or how do you self-educate? Anything you could share there about how you keep up to speed with everything?
Yeah, sure. I mean, for me, maybe the three main sources of self-educating. Obviously, there's all the resources. I read books. I listen to podcasts. So I don't. It's not. I'm not one of those people who reads books finishes a book every week or every month. No, probably I do 6 a year, but I do listen to a lot of podcasts like yours, and that's a really good. These are really good for me to keep myself up to date. The second one is my network around me. The people within my network, we catch up regularly. And then it's a really good source of learning. And the last one, I have to say, our customers have been great for teaching me new stuff. So every time I talk to a customer, I learn something new, which is fantastic. So yeah, these are the three main areas I keep myself up to date.
Well, it's been a real pleasure to have you join me on the podcast today. And for people listening, maybe they want to connect with you or your team or just find out more information about Zenphi and some of the use cases we talked about there. Where would you like to point everyone?
Sure. I mean, the best place to go would be zenphi.com, our website. Obviously, if you want to connect with me directly, I'm on LinkedIn. Just search Vahid Taslimi and pop up there. But in terms of zenphi.com would be the place to go.
We covered so much in a short amount of time there. And I, for one, will be leaving thinking around AI as an infrastructure, looking beyond chatbots and copilots and rethinking how AI gets deployed in the enterprise. And I think you brought it all to life today beautifully with some real world use cases of how AI driven automation, how it is implemented correctly, the kind of value it can unlock, and also where it matters most out there. So just a big thank you for bringing all this to life today.
Well, thank you very much, Neil. Thanks for having me. Did have a really good time.
So a big thank you to my guest for swapping AI hype for AI that ships, the kind that trims minutes off every run of a mission critical process and compounds into real measurable outcomes. Because real value shows up when intelligence lives inside workflows, not just another chat window. So if you want to learn more, head to zenphi.com. I'll leave links to the website and how you can connect with my guest today. And I'll leave you with this. If you treated AI like plumbing, something that's quiet, reliable everywhere, what's the first process that you'd pipe into it on a Monday morning? Let me know as always. TechTalksNetwork.com is the website where you can find out how to message me, leave an audio message, all that stuff. But thanks for listening today, and I'll speak with you again tomorrow. Bye for now.